Alright, so this is going to be about how to know if you have the Holy Spirit. It's probably going to be a little bit of a longer video. I'm trying to go very deep about a lot of things, and you might resonate with them or you might not. First of all, feeling the presence of God, feeling a certain love and a feeling of being taken care of, and having a deep, deep trust in whatever happens. Like, you could be beat up on the street, you knew it had to happen. It's almost you become like delusional in your view of how much guided you are. There's nothing that happens around you that you're not immediately like, okay, why did this happen? What could this might be good for? What might this be good for in the future? Or you know, you don't fear because of that. It's just a deep, deep acceptance of whatever happens to you, and it's also a feeling of love and being taken care of, and being protected. Also, when you look back in your life, I don't know how that is for you, it might be very individual, but when you go through traumatic experiences, sometimes you can have like a temporary awakening where you deeply wake up in a moment of deep suffering, where you become so aware and present because of the trauma that you're currently faced with, that you sort of involuntary wake up for a second, and in that deep awareness and presence there is no pain. And usually this is like a fragment of your memory, but you'll never forget that because it was like a forced awakening. And I've come to realize that this was God's presence who will come to you, and you will remember that and recognize what it is looking back. A certain, you could almost call it detachment when really bad things were happening to you before you maybe even came to God or got to really know God. Here's another one, a more physical symptom. This could be vibrations through your body, a certain warmth at certain spots. You might even get goosebumps when you're praying or talking to God. Some people even experience a certain warmth in their chest. Another thing the Holy Spirit does is it gives you revelations, especially about people. You could also call this discernment. So what's going to happen is, back in the day, you would just speak to people, you would look at their words. Of course, you're a spiritual being, there is some intuition there. But nowadays, it can often happen that you will immediately, without even having spoken any words, discern their motives and see behind the veil. And to you, this is going to be very obvious, but you won't immediately know where it's coming from. You'll just have a feeling, you'll just know for some unexplainable reason. But this could cause conflict because, again, we're spiritual beings. And so these people might even recognize that you sort of see through them. And then they could get mad at you because you're quote unquote not showing love back, or you're not falling for something which is actually fake love. And oftentimes it can very well be the case that these people are not aware of the deceptions they're under themselves, or the trick they are trying to play on you. They might not be aware of it on their own, but you'll read them and then they won't understand why you don't sort of reciprocate their energy. You could also receive revelations about events happening in the world, things that will take place in the future. This might be revealed to you. You might have visions, you might have dreams, you might have just certain spontaneous insights. And even when you see like certain ads from political agendas, or certain things from the system that you might not know consciously are bad because it's maybe something new, you'll immediately get a hunch that there's something off about it. Even if it's a billboard, it's like the billboard speaks to you. It's very bizarre. And obviously you also notice this in other people. So you'll notice, you'll get a bad feeling about certain people. You'll notice spirits, lingering spirits, even possessions and demons. I've had it a few times where it's pretty common to feel negative energies coming from people, in the modern day world, especially in the West. But I've had it a few individual times where I could genuinely see a straight up demon within a fleshly body. And this is where I'm like really taken aback because I feel it so strongly, and I can see, like I can see clear as day, this person is possessed as we're speaking. They're not being themselves right now. I've only had this a handful of times, but during these situations I got deep urges to like put a hand on them and pray for them, but I didn't do it. I prayed for them in secret, like next to them. Um, yeah, you'll also get a lot of, or sometimes very bad feelings about where in situations where other people see no issue at all. Like this could be common social events, or going to a festival, or going to a certain party, or just listening to music, or let's just go hand reading for fun. Even if you don't know yet that hand reading is of the occult, for example, you'll get these hunches even if you don't consciously or intellectually understand it or know why, and it's pretty strong. It's gonna convict you. And obviously this sort of ties together with losing friends. You're just gonna lose friends. You're gonna become more isolated and alone. This is just part of it, because when you become different, you don't match anymore. People are surrounded with people who are like them. That's who people choose as their friends. And when you become too radically different, your circle is going to become smaller. This causes you to become very distant from the world, and especially in the beginning, you'll probably have a season of isolation where you are very distant from a lot of people. But this might change later on once you've gone through what you had to go through, and God might send you back to be the salt of the earth, because you can't be the salt of the earth if you're not in the earth. But there's definitely a time where He will take you out of it, and this is usually for your growth. When I was in my season of isolation, which I still am pretty much, that's a time where I lost all my friends. I deleted all social media, no more Instagram, no more Snapchat. I quit the drugs, I quit the cigarettes. It was really a time of growth and a lot of suffering, but it was necessary. In my case, it was rather extreme and pretty radical, so I would go years without actually ever meeting another person in person, like a friend or something. Sometimes I would go months without speaking to anybody in real life besides maybe the woman at the cash register, and not even online or anything. Another thing is that some people will just automatically be very negative and hostile towards you for no reason. These people won't be aware of why they feel bad towards you, but you'll usually know why. Here's one more very specific one. When you attain the Holy Spirit, you no longer fall for tricks of the devil. So I'll give you an example. I used to be a heavy weed smoker. And in the beginning, when you smoke weed, there's something spiritual about weed. And it's almost like, oh, it makes me more spiritual. And it helps me be enlightened. It somehow helps me because you're not aware of the spiritual realm yet. And everything that is of the spiritual realm is, oh, it's spiritual. You know, you can't categorize good or bad because you don't have the Holy Spirit yet. At least it's not strong enough yet. And when I had the Holy Spirit, and I would smoke a joint again, what would happen is I would get, because here's what psychedelics do. Psychedelics strip you of your beliefs, and they strip you of what you quote unquote cling to, or what you perceive to be the truth. They make a even the playing field again. And by quote unquote spiritual people, this can be looked at as something very, very humbling and enlightening. But the problem is, this is fake humility, because they don't just strip you of your ego, they give you doctrines. They feed you doctrines in your humiliated state, so to speak. So it's not just a stripping of what you believe in, and the humbling which makes you so spiritual because you're so humbling, but they actually give you certain views and certain ideas. Usually, oftentimes under psychedelics, it will be very focused on you. You gotta do it. You are the one. There is no higher power, or you are all that is of that higher power, when in reality there is a higher power that has been moving in your life without you even being conscious of it for years. You start to almost fall into sort of occult worldviews, because these are fallen entities that disguise themselves as light, and even demons, they come to you through your thoughts, through your emotions. And so when I would smoke a joint again, what would happen is, because I become extremely sensitive, so I used to have full on ego deaths after a while of growing. You become very sensitive to these things, even to coffee. I can't drink coffee anymore. It's way too strong for me. And what ends up happening is you get thoughts, you get revelations, but then the Holy Spirit comes in and corrects it, and it's like, no, that's not true. It wants to tell you this because of that, but actually this is the case, and that's false, even though it might appear as such. And it sort of corrects you, and you're standing there like, I used to fall for these thoughts that weren't actually my own thoughts, because I thought I was super philosophical, and I thought I was thinking so deep, when in actuality I was receiving thoughts from a spirit. I would stand there and be like, I used to fall for this for years, but now that I have the corrector, it's showing me, look, here's why it's a deception, like clear as day. And it was such a bizarre experience. And then obviously the Spirit also told me, stop taking these drugs, stop taking them. And it really urged me, and I didn't smoke again after that. Because the Holy Spirit will protect you in the spiritual realm. And sometimes you can, unbeknownst to yourself, fall into something that is of spiritual nature. For example, hand reading. Maybe you didn't know that hand reading was an occult practice, and there are people who just lie to you, but there are actually witches who will speak curses upon you. If you don't know that, the Holy Spirit might still protect you even though you're in ignorance. And in general, I'm a person, I come from New Age, and New Age is nothing else but occultism repackaged. And there you will have certain doctrines. Certain doctrines go hand in hand with certain spirits, and certain spirits, they can come upon you. And obviously, Satan is not like, oh, I'm the bad guy and I'm going to make you kill people. No, he comes in as something disguised as light. And at the end, before you break free, he'll send you his most compassionate and loving spirits. At least they appear as such, who will even give you signs and make you think like, you know, you're special, you're this and that, and super humble. You're so humble because you take all these drugs and you accept everything, and that's what the truth really is about. And everybody else is just close-minded because they're too attached to their ideologies and stuff like that. When you get the Holy Spirit, everything becomes clear, because when you're still in these doctrines, there is always a hunch of confusion. There is always a hunch of, I'm not actually standing on anything, I'm sort of standing on nothing. And when you get the Holy Spirit, it's like everything becomes super clear. It's no longer cloudy, it's like clear as glass. And you just see. You can immediately see spirits for what they are. They might appear like 95% beautiful, but because it's so clear, you can just see. It's, I don't know, you just don't fall for it. And this is something I can't really explain it. A lot of people aren't even aware when they're interacting with spirits or what it means to be oppressed or possessed by a spirit, but it becomes clear. Even the truth in of itself, it becomes very simple and very clear, and it's almost like I've always known, but it just wasn't purified yet. It's like you have a stone, but you didn't make the sculpture yet. You didn't sculpt it properly yet, because it's already within you, but you have to awake it. And when you awake it, and when it gets stronger, it will force you to let go of that which wasn't actually the Holy Spirit, but you somehow attribute it to God because it was spiritual. You see, it's because it's an awakening. It's already within you. That's why these sacred texts, these holy texts, especially or only the New Testament, awakens something which is already within you, because the presence of God is within you, but you need to awaken that. And as you awaken it and it becomes clear what you need to rid yourself of, even though you might have thought it was super spiritual. And of course, this could also lead you to be viewed as very close-minded or naive by other people, because you will be like, no, I'm not dealing with this. This is, in your head, it's like, this is demonic. I know it's like 90% good to you, and it might even be, but the motive is actually impure, even though it's like volunteering for the sake of being looked at as somebody spiritual, or doing something for approval. Yeah, it's like 90% good, and in a sense you could even say it's better that it happened than that it didn't happen, but the spirit behind it, the motive behind it, is impure. And so in the same way, you can see spirits and their ideologies or their doctrines, and they can look so beautiful from a front, but you see that 10%, and because you're in truth, you're no longer jumping around from true thing to true thing. You reject all of it because you already have all of truth. Truth is not compatible with everything. A lot of things can be true. A lot of things can be stepping stones to the truth. But truth in of itself, you can't find that everywhere. You can find true things, but once you're in truth and you see a true thing, you reject it. You reject all of it, because the good part of that deception is already contained with what you have. And so when it becomes so clear, you can be looked at as very naive, very close-minded, and if we read Bible revelation, you will be looked at as the evil one for your lack of compassion and dogmatic brainwash. But you see. And obviously, yeah, these spirits, they disguise themselves as light. Every single doctrine does, every single religion does. That's the whole point of it. And this is not something that just happens overnight. Like a lot of people think, those who are more carnal minded, that this is something you say the right words and you get baptized and boom, from one day to another you're like, whoa, now notice all these things. No, this is something that might even start before you come to Christ, because the same way God is moving in your life, before you're aware of it, God can show you things and hint you to certain things before you're even aware of Christ. And it's not like nobody has the Holy Spirit. We all have the Holy Spirit to a degree. We're all made in the image of God. But for most people, it just lies dormant and it's surrounded by so much filth and deception they can't make out what is the truth. Because we all have the hunch of the truth. But only Christ can truly awaken it, because he's one with that, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they're one. They're all God. Spirit within you, Christ, the resemblance of the Creator, which is beyond space, time, and matter, which is unknowable. But through him you can know him, because he's manifested, because you're manifested. You can't, as a manifested being or creation, you cannot know something which is unmanifested, beyond your scope of comprehension, aka beyond space, time, and matter. This is why Christ, the image of the invisible God, will show you what's in your spirit, and through him you get to the Father. You understand? Because they're all one, Holy Trinity. And to the degree that you might get, quote unquote, parts of the Holy Spirit, or a little hunch of things, is that degree depends on your degree of humility. There are lots of people out there who are genuinely humble, who genuinely seek, but who are not with Christ, but who will be with Christ. God is opening their hearts and showing them things to the degree that they humble themselves, even though they might not be with Christ yet. And obviously this goes hand in hand with being able to look at your past, look through a spiritual lens, and clear as they see where God has been moving in your life, where God has been shifting things and situations in your favor. And you didn't know that at the time. You almost might have even hated what happened at the moment or at that time, but looking back, you can recognize clear as day the divine hand was at play. I had some pretty bizarre events as well. This won't necessarily happen, but I remember one time I was out at night, like 4 in the morning, and I was walking past a person and I could immediately feel a bad presence. And the person started lunging toward, like straight up running at me. It was like 10 meters away and I could see it in my peripheral. I didn't even look, I just kept walking. And like 4 meters next to me, he just like froze and stood still. And immediately I felt like a spirit was gonna murder me, but I was protected. But I also had a lot of experience when I was still under deception, where people would randomly come up to me. For example, I remember one time I was in a store. I was like, I don't know, 17, 18. Yeah, about that. And a man came up to me and he just like did this to my face and he smiled at me and it felt so loving and good. But looking back, I knew that was a bad entity. And the devil kind of likes uncertainty or doubt or unknowing, because that's his playing field. True humility, the devil has no access to that. That's outside of his perception. But uncertainty, and even though that might coincide with your humility, the part which is uncertain or in doubt, that's the part the devil really likes. That's how he grabs people under false pretenses, in the name of compassion and empathy, to accept things that are actually wicked. Now, you might maybe get a really special and personalized sign. In my life, I've received 2 of them, but I won't be sharing them because they're very intimate, and I think that's something you should keep to yourself. But this doesn't have to happen, and you should not expect this to happen. God does not owe you that. God does not owe you anything. And if you do not walk truly according to scriptures, and you can clear as day tell, like, dude, I've been suffering for years now, I'm so different, and can see all these things, then don't expect it to happen. And if you're not walking fully with God yet and you're receiving all these signs, you might want to be careful, because the enemy loves to give you signs and makes you think you're doing the right thing, just so you don't stop doing that thing which actually isn't the right thing. You know how, for example, angel numbers are real. I've had this phenomena over months, multiple times in my life, but I can discern now what it is. And so it stops happening because it's not deceiving me anymore. Also, obviously, the enemy starts attacking you a lot more. And And then he might even give you like a sort of false peace or the illusion that you've conquered him. This is when you're young and naive in the walk, and he will leave you alone and you think, oh my God, I'm free now, I did it. And then when you're at the weakest, all of a sudden he's gonna like pop up again. And this is obviously only because God allows him to, right? It's to make you stronger, to make you grow in spirit, see deeper and understand more, and to recognize his attacks, because his attacks get stronger, but our defense gets stronger as well. So this is always in correlation, and God will always up Satan a little bit so he can bring your defenses up, so you can get stronger and stronger and stronger. This one's very specific, and this, I'm not sure if this is necessarily Holy Spirit, but when I sit in nature alone, I can sit there for hours on end and I'm in pure bliss because I'm dwelling in the presence. But when there's people around me, and with people around me, I don't just mean there's a person walking by 10 meters next to me. I mean when I'm in like companionship with someone, like with a friend or with my ex-girlfriend, was what it actually was. It's almost boring, because it's almost like that presence is, you can't grasp it anymore. It's like the energy has been corrupted now, and then okay, well, like, what do we actually do now? We just sit here on the grass. But when I was alone, it was like, wow, this is like, look at God's creation, look at this, look at that, and just being in the bliss and feeling the love. And that's also one of those moments I received, one of the two personalized signs. But there are some dangers. And the first and the main one is spiritual ego. There are many Christians out there or people out there who think they have the Holy Spirit because they have a certain intuition, they have a certain hunch. And the thing with these things is that you only ever see what's below you or what's beneath you. You don't see what's above you. You don't see how much stronger your intuition could get. You don't see how much stronger the hunches or the revelations could get. And if you cling to what you have, which metaphysically is inducing your ego, you will stop the growth and you will prevent God from filling that part up within you which clings to that which you have, and then is like, oh, I'm super spiritual, like I'm all that. That part has to die. That's spiritual ego. That's the last trap. That's also the religious trap, thinking you're better because you're holy. But this is not aware, because you're not aware of these beliefs. This is a subconscious thing that a lot of religious people suffer from. They subconsciously think they're better than others because they sin less and they're more holy. This is sort of the last trap. You think you're better because you follow God. But to follow God, you need to stop thinking you're better, because to the degree you think you're better is to the degree you cannot follow God. Again, this is internal conflict. And when you get certain gifts, your flesh and your ego wants to be like, yeah, that's me. That's me. I have these gifts now. I am that. And to the degree you are that is to the degree the gift can't grow. Again, humility and pride are always, it's like two scales. They're always in balance. So yeah, only looking at what you have, and then closing yourself up to what you could have, because you don't know what you could have, because you only see what you have. And obviously there's also another spiritual component to this, which is even demonic entities, they can give you certain insights. You know, when you go, for example, to have your hand read, she might have contact with some ancestral spirits, familiar spirits, or other entities that can temporarily empower her and make her know stuff about you that she wouldn't know in the natural, because she has certain abilities in the spiritual. But obviously all these abilities are sort of like empty. It's like the pleasure of a sin. It's empty because Satan doesn't actually want to empower them. He just wants to deceive them barely enough to the point where they give up their soul. And that's also the further away you get from him, the closer you get to the truth, the bigger he's going to make that supposed gift or the appearance of the gift. Because he can't truly give you any gifts. He can only deceive you and give you temporary gifts that will actually disappear and be meaningless after a certain while. But the gift, the appearance of the gift will increase. It's sort of like, you know, the prison ward comes when you leave the cell, not when you're inside of it. So be aware, if you are not truly walking that walk, or you're in the transitioning phase, make sure you analyze yourself. And even I do this. I am not overly confident in every single hunch or intuitive feeling I get, because no matter how far you go, even though you might not be possessed anymore, you can still be oppressed. Demons can still talk to you. And I would never be 100% certain that I can discern every single thing, because we're all infallible, and I think it's good to at least keep a little bit of openness always. But again, that openness is not uncertainty or doubt, but that is just trusting God. That even though I might be wrong sometimes here or there, it's okay. Because here's what you gotta understand: no preacher, no pastor, no person will ever represent the Bible or Christ accurately. Nobody of us is perfect. Nobody of us is 100% in truth, because we are corrupted. So the only way to see that which is perfect is to look at Christ. So all that we should do as quote unquote religious people or people who follow Christ is just point towards Him, really. Because these videos are, it's a cool addition if you're interested and you can resonate, but we should all point to Him, and not to us, because we are not Him. Here's one more danger for women especially. You have a stronger intuition than men. And obviously, you could confuse your intuition with the Holy Spirit. You can actually notice this. I know how to spot this by now. This is when you'll notice this when there's a certain air of resentment and hatred and initial closed upness or avoidance of the world. This means that when there's certain closed upness or a certain ignorance or avoidance, that might be a sort of a generalization rather than actual insight. It's sort of like, you know, what people do when they generalize, oh, all men are the same, or all women are the same, and then you start to treat people based on stereotypes. But if you have an intuition and you think this is the Holy Spirit, but your intuition is corrupted by your mind and your preconceived notions, you might misinterpret your intuition as the Holy Spirit. But when you grow, you'll start to smell that. There are some women in the Christian church who are very much like that, and they avoid, they're almost scared. I don't know exactly how to put it. But that could be a sign that, and this part could even happen to men, that they run on their own wisdom. This is obviously also a danger when people start to confuse genuine with their own wisdom with genuine wisdom. But again, usually you will sort of just smell this. There's a certain hatred or resentment in the air because there's a time in everybody's walk where they'll just be separated, and God takes you out of the world for a reason. And during that moment, you're going to be a lot more distant and by yourself. But once you've grown enough, He's going to put you back inside. So this might just be a stage, but it also might be a sort of a deception or running on their own wisdom. Another sign that's, obviously the reason why this happens is you undoubtedly start to see everyone's filth, because you start to see your own filth, and it can be a little difficult for a while to overcome this and conquer this and to turn that fear into love, because you see that everybody's corrupt. Even the most loving person, they have a corruption within them, and you have a corruption. It can be difficult, especially if you're very harsh on yourself and perfectionist. You can apply that standard to other people, but again, remember this: love overcomes fear. They're opposites. Do you think Jesus was fearing people treating Him bad? No, there's a certain bravery with that. There's a certain embrace of suffering, taking on that suffering. That's what the truth is, and risking being hurt for the sake of truth. But I'll talk more about that a little later. One more thing is you probably don't have a short temper, and you're pretty good at diffusing other people's unconscious moments when he just sort of overtakes them. You know the saying, oh, it just overtook me, or I didn't know why I did it. This is usually a sign, if you know what I'm hinting to. And you can see this in the eyes of people. When it overtakes them, they're not being themselves. There's something else in their eyes. And in these moments, you stay present, you stay aware, and you can sort of bring them back. You don't lose yourself, I don't know what came over me, is what people say. We know. We see it. And also, real quick, make sure you don't... Not every single emotion means demonic possession or anything. There's a difference. But when people tend to act out the same... Let's say somebody loses themselves in anger a lot, or over and over, this might be a sign. Because it's not like that spirit will make himself present always. Again, Satan attacks you when you're at your lowest. you might have, I don't know, something bad happening, and then you just boil up and you just explode, and that's when it will come, you know. One more thing, and that's a really important one: you get convicted and corrected all the times. The stronger the spirit, the more subtle and detailed the things that you're being corrected about become. In the beginning, it might just be like, or if you're an average person, oh, I shouldn't have hit that guy, I shouldn't have cursed that guy or insulted that person. And then as you progress, it's maybe, oh, I should listen to that music. It's not just you read it online, you shouldn't listen to that song. It's you get a deep conviction from within. That music is bad, it's brainwashing me as we speak. And then it gets deeper, like, why am I, you start to overly analyze yourself. Like, why am I putting on this chain for the approval of people? What does it signal? Should I really do this, you know? And you, even little attitudes, a little conversation, and you walk out of it just like, I wasn't 100% in truth right there. I let my ego take the better of me, or I felt a little attacked, or, you know, I think you know what I mean. And this will get more stronger and more stronger, and this is going to cause you to become more self-aware. But as you follow the corrections and that which has been revealed to you, that spirit and that voice of correction in of itself starts to grow even more. That's how we grow the spirit, by following the spirit. The same way, how do we get to know God? By reading the word. You don't not read the word and then somehow, no, you have to feed that which it's made of. So you have to feed the spirit to let it grow. And here's one sign that someone is truly full with the Spirit. Those full with the Spirit who are even set apart from those who are set apart are those who they just glow and shine. You'll only meet a few of those people in your lives. They automatically, they walk into a room, they soften everyone's heart. Usually these are women. Now, this doesn't mean that they're necessarily more spiritual than an equivalent man or a spiritual man, but they usually have certain gifts that just almost enchant people around them. Now, this can also be men, but I've often noticed this with women, usually older women who truly live for God. They have a certain ability and gentleness that a man might not have, which causes a woman to be able to soften another person's heart a little more than a man could have. This doesn't mean the man is less spiritual, but and even men have this. But when somebody's truly full with the Spirit, it's so insane. They walk into a room and everybody just, it's like the whole energy just shifts, like it just overtakes the whole room. These are the kinds of people you can spit on them, you can hate them, they'll smile at you, they'll love you, and they mean it. They truly mean it. They will genuinely love you, even though you can do anything bad to. Those are the kinds of people, somebody kills their son, they will go and hug the guy and tell you, because here's the thing, they see. They have wisdom. I'll get to that though in a second. But they don't only talk about Christ and follow the commandments and don't sin, they live it. You see, spirit, truth is embodied, not just merely spoken of. You can be a religious guy, you can say all the right words. If you don't treat your neighbor in love, what is even the point of that? And here's what I want to get to. What is the point of not sinning? People think when they stop sinning, when they stop smoking the cigarettes and taking the drugs and fornicating and listening to bad music, they're more holy, they're more spiritual. Now they're following it, now they're doing the right thing. Yes, you're doing the right thing, but you're not working for God. You're just removing the deficit. Why do we remove the deficits? Why do we stop smoking? Why do we stop taking drugs? Why do we stop listening to bad music? So we can avoid the corruption. You're just removing the deficit. But how do you actually work for God? By showing love. All the commandments, all the sin, all the whole goal could be summarized in this: to love one another as I have loved you. This is the goal. Quitting sin is not the spiritual path in of itself. It's the preparation so you can actually start the work for God. It's just removing the deficit. And these people are enlightened. They have removed the deficit. Their eyes have been opened. And now all they do is love and suffer and follow the footsteps of Christ, because that's what Christ calls us to do, which is love everyone, love your enemies, right? And this is also why these people that will genuinely love somebody, even though they're throwing the most detestable things at them, is because they see in spirit. When you see in spirit, from the flesh, how do I put this? When somebody's deceived, they will suffer because of that. And the deception will cause you to hate and be negative towards people. And when you're spiritual, you can recognize the negativity and the hatred coming off from someone stems from their deceptions or the fact that they're deceived. And to the degree that they're deceived, they suffer. Now in the flesh, you feel a hatred, you feel a resentment. Again, the religious person comes to mind who hates the guy in sin. But from the spirit, you have compassion. Because no matter how much you throw at me, and actually if you throw a lot more at me, I know that you're in a deeper deception and that you're suffering more, and that's why you need my love more, and that's why I'm going to give you more love. These people, they understand that because they see in spirit. They're no longer blinded, they have broken free. And that's why people like these are very, very special, and you very rarely meet them. Those are the ones who've gotten it after, once you become quote unquote enlightened. I don't like the word because it's not Christian, but once you finish or quit the sin and you've removed the deficits as good as you can, because we're all still imperfect, even that person, all that's left to do is show love. So you will volunteer, you will love your enemies. There's nothing else to do, really. These are the kinds of people that just help everybody, that go volunteer, help people in war, and just maybe spread the gospel a little bit here and there, but it's really in the way they act and treat you that you can notice Christ, not in the words. A preacher can talk about Christ, but if the love's missing, he's not going to move people. He might actually bring them away from God, even though he might be talking about the right concept or way, because he's not living it. You have to live it. You have to follow him in spirit, not carnally proclaim the right words. And these people, and also you, if you're full of the Holy Spirit, you will forgive people so easy. Because again, when you become spiritual, you start to have this wisdom that whatever people do to you stems from their deceptions and sufferings. So how could you hate them? You just want to forgive them. And it's also, because it's not always easy, but it becomes automatic. And the more quote unquote spiritual you get, the more you're allowed to see, the more natural it comes to you, because you just see. You're no longer blinded. But obviously, don't think this is like a one and done. We can be in better states, we can be in worse states. You can feel really good one day and show a lot of love, and another day you fall. Does this mean you're now less spiritual or you've taken a step back? No, it's never static, There's a general progression and there's temporary states. So you can be further back in a state but have a better day and act more loving that day. Or you can be further down the path but might have a kind of a bad day that day. It's never stationary because we're imperfect and we're not in heaven. And yeah, that's how I want to sum this up. That's also the whole point of the gospel. You're called to love the world even though it hates you. Because truly from spirit, you want nobody to go to hell. From flesh, you're like, yeah, go burn in hell. But from spirit, no, I want to save you. I want to embarrass myself for you, even though you spit in my face and keep telling you what I believe to be the truth and what's best for you. Quitting sin and addiction, that's just a preparation to do that. And then once you're through with the isolation, which is what is here to rid you of your quitting the sinning, then he's going to put you out there again to be the salt of the world and to influence them with your spirit. Because it's not just demons that possess you, Christ possesses you. Demons jump from people to people. When you fall into anger, the demon of anger jumps over to you. That's why it transfers, the emotion transfers. They want to drag you to that level. When somebody becomes angry at you, your flesh wants to get angry back. That's how you open a portal. When you're possessed by Jesus and you show them love, you do the same thing backwards. And then you have these ripple effects, these butterfly effects. And this is the thing that actually is the whole point of the gospel. So the most important thing is love one another as I have loved you. But it's not the modern, overly compassionate and accepting of self-destruction kind of love. It's the real love in Jesus Christ that will tell you the harsh truth, but still in love. And when you hate me for telling you the truth, I'll still show you love, because I just want what's best for you. And what's best for you is not always the easy way or what you want to hear. That's the unfortunate truth. And if I love you, I'll keep telling you, despite you not liking it or hating me for it or trying to put me at a distance for it. I'll continuously to tell you and embarrass myself and let you mock me for it. Because from the flesh, preaching about God is very embarrassing. You start to cringe. I noticed this myself when I preach. Sometimes that my flesh is looking at me like, oh God, that's so, like, you're not cool at all right now. It's like so not cool what you're doing, but you gotta let that part just go, you know? So yeah, that's love one another as I have loved you. The way he loves you, that's what you're called to do. And yeah, if there's anything I've forgotten about the Holy Spirit, then feel free to share it in the comments. I'm sure I've forgotten some things. Maybe you can kind of resonate with one another. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video.